Then you've got the AI barons like Sam Altman, Larry Page, Elon Musk, I would say Peter Thiel as well. And then you've got the intelligence, the military-industrial complex, which is DARPA, the NSA, GCHQ and NATO. And then you've got these ideological think tanks like Fabian Society and the Trilateral Commission, the RAND Corporation, and I would also say the Club of Rome. So they're all there, sort of doing their thing. This week I've been looking quite closely at Tony Blair's Institute, the Tony Blair Institute, because this year, in April of this year, he wrote The Climate Paradox, Why We Need to Reset Action on Climate Change, because he's more or less saying, look, it's not going to work. And they knew that all along, because they are Fabians, they're gradualists, they do things very, very slowly, and they get what they want over a long period of time. And he said, net zero policies, once seen as a pathway to economic transformation, are increasingly viewed as unaffordable, ineffective, or politically toxic. The old climate playbook isn't working. We need a political strategy that wins, accelerating and scaling technologies that capture carbon, including AI. We must use artificial intelligence technology. It must turbocharge our path to net zero. So really, they've managed to get the whole technocratic thing in, all the AI, and climate change doesn't really matter if we don't phase out fossil fuels, because it was never a problem anyway. But it's a good way to destroy the West, anyway. This is, something happened in 2025, around March, and it's called the New Global Government Technology Centre, and it opened in Berlin to accelerate government digital transformation. Now, it's a kind of a collaboration. I'll put the next slide up. It's a collaboration between Ukraine and Germany, and it's a launch of the Global GovTech Board, and it happened in April. And you've got a number of players here who, I thought I'd put the notes up. But anyway, it's Ukraine and Germany have come together. Now, Ukraine, as we know, is an absolute, one of the reasons for what's going on in Ukraine is that it's going to be the WEF's AI centre. It's a whole kind of, where everything will really be, will be organised from is Ukraine. And as you can see, I'll just do this. This is Keir Starmer in Ukraine this year, looking at all this technology, and he's in with all of it. And this is the Mastering the Agentic AI Chatbox Summit in 2025 in Berlin. Now, everybody thinks, chatbox, that's quite good fun, isn't it? But you realise that all this is being brought in to get you addicted to it, to get you sort of understanding it, and for you to think that it's actually your friend. It is not your friend. It really is not your friend. And if you do use it, don't give it too much information, and don't rely on it, because if you rely on it, it will become a problem. And you'll understand a bit later. So, now, here's Keir Starmer again there, and Peter Thiel and Palantir, they met at this big summit in Ukraine and Germany, and they've been sort of looking at all this and developing all this AI that's different, which I'm calling it's called Agentic AI. Now, as this slide, oops. You won't be able to read that, but I've just put it up because it's a British medical journal, and it says Palantir gets a 480 million contract to run the NHS data platform. So all our NHS data is being run by Palantir, or a great deal of it. And this is why the NHS You've got NHS Improvement, collaborated with NHS Digital and NHS Improvement. Did you know there were so many? And that now it's all about predictive, preventative, and I can't remember the other P, healthcare. So actually it's all down to your genetics. They'll be doing lots of genetic screening, and it really is very invasive of the human body and what data they're collecting about each and every one of us. They're looking straight into our DNA, and this is a bit, this is a worry because, where it's going is it's not a good place. I'm sorry, I hope this isn't depressing. I want to cheer it up a bit at the end. Anyway, now the agentic state is what they call it. Now, Berlin and Ukraine brought out this white paper called the Agentic State, and I do advise you to have a look at it, because really what it's about, this is page 20. The agentic state signifies a fundamental shift in governance where, have I put that one up? No. The agentic state signifies a fundamental shift in governance where AI systems can perceive, reason and act with minimal human intervention to deliver public value. Human oversight will increasingly move from making decisions to supervise them. This shift may seem uncomfortable. So basically, they're shifting the agency of the human being over to AI. Now, this is, they'll do it quite gradually, and they'll say it's for your benefit. So, next slide is, and this is again from the agentic state. Allowing others to direct your actions and passing the responsibility to the person giving the orders. There you go. And here we go, this is the agentic shift. And this is all from the white paper. Moving from a state of autonomy to an agentic state, you feel less responsible for your own actions and behave as an agent to the authority figure. So what is agentic AI? It's, all systems are designed to act autonomously. It's intended to manage public services, already emerging in Germany and Ukraine, and it's coming to the UK, NHS, civil service and policing. And at the moment, Microsoft are developing this to bring it into all civil service, and as I say, it's the civil service, education as well, NHS and policing. So it's, they want to bring it into, really take over our governance that we have at the moment. So, let's move that one on. So AI shifts from serving humans to directing decisions. Now this is a really important thing. Public sector workers are expected to follow AI outputs, and accountability becomes unclear, because how can you hold anybody responsible when it's a machine? So there is no responsibility for what happens, because these machines, and also there's no heart, there's no soul, so they'll be making heartless decisions and soulless decisions more than anything else. So that's the way they roll. So. Now, it was purely by accident. I was researching this, and I happened to be just typing into Google agentic state, and this picture of Stanley Milgram came up, 1961. Now, does anybody know? Put your hands up if you've heard of the Milgram experiments. Yeah. Oh, look, everybody does. Brilliant. Lovely. Well. Stanley Milgram was a psychologist in the 1960s, and he wanted to see how far people would do things against their conscience. And so he set up a sort of a fake environment where people were wired up to electric shocks. And he got somebody in a white coat to tell somebody to turn the dial up. The person who's turning the dial up didn't know. And actually they were giving them deadly, and because the guy in the white coat was saying, the clipboard was saying, turn it up, they did. And that person would have died had it been a real experiment. So it just shows you how people, when they appeal to authority, when they decide to give over their agency to an authority figure, they will do anything because they think that that person in authority will take responsibility. And so that's kind of where he was coming from. But it is interesting that he called it the agentic state. And I don't think that's a complete mistake or coincidence that they're calling it the agentic state. Because what they're doing is they're creating this way of us appealing to the AI to be in charge of us. So that is what they're doing. I mean, it clearly is that. So Milgram showed people to obey harmful orders. The authority figure means compliance. People relinquished responsibility, and AI risks becoming the new white coat. Now, with the technocratic agentic state, human judgment is replaced by algorithmic authority. Obedience becomes automated, and decisions become opaque and unchallengeable. So, so why does this matter? Well, it's a threat to democracy and accountability, because nobody's accountable. Public services run by AI, not humans, and the erosion of moral agency and responsibility. And more than anything, it's the moral side of things, because these machines do not have a conscience, and we do. That's the thing wonderful thing about us human beings, is that we do have conscience. So it's a false promise, and it's leading us into transhumanism, because the more the AI takes over, the less the human beings will be needed. And the whole idea is to merge man with machine with this whole digital convergence, where you have a digital twin, in the metaverse. I mean, this is like, we're looking, well, I'm wondering how many years ahead, but people say, that won't happen for hundreds of years, but actually, the rate it's going, it's actually quite quick. So we can't hang about in actually understanding this and having some sort of pushback against it. So the agentic AI is the rise of the autonomous machines and the future of humanity. In their world, in my world, it's not, because we have to. It's very important that we remain human, that we keep the human condition going, because the way it's going now, we haven't got a lot of time before all of this happens, and we have to bear in mind that we are, we are human, and we can't let go of the human condition. So, the big question, are we building tools or a replacement of humanity? And I think it's quite obvious what we're doing. So AI becoming autonomous is embedded in governance, finance and defence, and spiritual and civilizational stakes. I mean, this is it. We've got something to fight for here. In a system that no one controls, the danger is the AI-run bureaucracy with no accountability. Now, I'm going to get on now to the spiritual side of what is happening with AI. And everybody says, we're in a spiritual war, but not many people go into detail about that spiritual war. We know that we're in a big battle between good and evil, don't we? We know that. We can feel it. We understand it. So I'm just going to go back in time a little bit and talk about the occult plan behind the Great Reset and Agenda 2030, because it goes back quite a long way. Yes. Now this is, as many people heard of Madame Helena Blavatsky? Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's funny because I live in a pagan town, unfortunately. And when I first went there, everybody's meditating and quoting people like her, and I always thought I'd be a bit sceptical and try and understand what all of this was about. But basically, this is a quote from one of her books, The Secret Doctrine, in 1888. And she was a founder of the Theosophical Society. She says, it is Satan that is the god of our planet, and the only god, and this without any elusive metaphor to its depravity. So we understand where she's coming from. And she was the teacher of a lady called Alice Bailey, who has massive influence within the United Nations. So I'm just going to move that one in. Now Alice Bailey wrote a book called The Externalization of the Hierarchy. Has anybody ever read it? Well, really, it's her kind of playbook of how she feels that the world should be in the future, and she mentions 2030. She actually says 2030. She said in her pamphlet, the next 3 years, she said, by 1945 we shall have the inner structure of a world faith so clearly defined in the minds of many thousands that its outer structure will inevitably make its appearance before the end of the century. The inner structure of the old world federation of nations will be equally well organised by 1965, and its outer form taking rapid shape by 2025. Now, she was born in 1880. She was born literally at the time when I think Madame Blavatsky was I think she was around then. But she certainly followed Madame Blavatsky's teachings. Now, Alice Bailey was a very disturbed woman. She was born in Manchester in the UK in 1880. And her name was Alice Latrobe Bateman. She was born into an unhappy, though very wealthy family. She was very unstable, and as a child tried to commit suicide, I think 3 times. The first attempt at the age of just 5. She was orphaned in her teens, and she moved to the United States in 1907, where she spent the rest of her life. She studied occultism, Freemasonry, and founded an international esoteric movement to prepare for the coming one. She declares that she has no other intention. She became the high priestess of the New Age. Now, the New Age was always controlled, and it was there really to bring in this secular society that we have with no morals and a real moral breakdown in society, and that's what it was meant to do. Now, she was a channeler, and she channeled something called the Great White Brotherhood. And one of her ascended masters, it was some nefarious ascended masters. Now, and one of them was called Dwal Kul. Now, it's funny because a lot of New Age people think this is all wonderful. But actually, who was she channeling, and what was she channeling? Because when you realise that she set up the Lucis Trust, which she called the Lucifer Trust, and got heavily involved with the UN, and she talks about the coming Christ consciousness, but it's always with a small c. She never talks about Jesus Christ, and she talks about Lucifer, the light bringer. So, I mean, this is really interesting because she was very, very heavily involved with the early League of Nations and the United Nations, because she had this vision of a one world, a new world order, and a one world government with one world everything, which is really what the UN adopted her model. So, here we go. And there it is. She wrote more than 24 books on esotericism, and all are housed in the UN library. She formed a publishing company, originally incorporated as the Lucifer Publishing Company, was founded by Alice and Foster Bailey, her husband, in May 1922 in New Jersey, USA. The company's name was changed to the Lucis Trust for obvious reasons in 1924. She had offices in the USA, London, Whitehall, Geneva, and the UN. So she was heavily, heavily involved with politics. This is the sole publishing company for the United Nations to this day. So they still publish under the Lucis Trust. Now, she also set up this World Goodwill, which is really... Oh, sorry, I've got to move it on, thank you. Bless you. Oh, there we go. World Goodwill. Now, Alison Foster Bailey, her husband, founded a group called World Goodwill. This was an official NGO within the United Nations. This organisation gave birth to the new group of World Service, as directed by Alice Bailey in her book of the same name. This organisation has been subsidised by the Lucis Trust and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation since 2004. And apparently Bill Gates is one of the group of world servers, so we know what he's about. Right, here we go. Now, yeah, I just thought I'd put this in. I mean, I'm not a Bible basher, but I'm beginning to wonder, because I left Christianity a long time ago, and I'm beginning to sort of go full circle and come back to it, because in Revelation 13, it's and that no man might buy or sell, save that he had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. That's Revelation 13:17. And AI, as a speaking image, when you think about what AI is, it is a bit of a deceiver. The CBDC's, buy and sell control, and the global governance alignment. So literally, if you don't literally hook up to all this AI, you will not be able to, your bank account, they can look into your bank account, they can close it down. If you step out of line, like all of us rebels, you won't be able to buy and sell anything. So it's a clue here in Revelation 13. Here we go. Is AI the Antichrist? Well, I've been chucking this around my head for a long time. Who thinks it might be? Only a few people. Okay, well, it's not a being, but the infrastructure of an Antichrist system. It could be. The beast system is technocracy, commerce, control, monitoring, punishment of dissent. The real threat is human submission, dependency, fear, convenience, and automation. And we're all guilty of that. I mean, sometimes I think I'd love to just chuck my smartphone in a river somewhere, but because we're doing the work we're doing, it's almost impossible. But if I was a normal I'm a grandmother, and I'd retired, I think I would get rid of all the AI. I really would, because I feel that it is really taking us into a very dark place. But don't let me influence you. You make your own minds up. What's this one? Now, I just want to go very briefly into the technocratic mysticism in Silicon Valley. Now, this picture here is a picture of Peter Thiel followers, and they wear upside down crucifixes on their heads. They're sort of a death cult, and they say they want to embrace the darkness and hail to Thiel. And the thing is that they support transhumanism, digital immortality, WorldCoin, and Yuval Harari. Yuval Harari, who actually has stated that he wants a non-biological world. So that means an artificial world, getting rid of all the humans. So this is a cult that's kind of developed in Silicon Valley under Peter Thiel, who claims he's a Christian, but he's not. Because, and I think this lot, these technocrats, are the new Luciferians, because they pretend to be religious Christians, but they're actually working for the dark side. And I've just been following a lot of this at the moment, so bear with me. I mean, she looks really demonic. They look demonic. And apparently in Silicon Valley, if you work in all the tech companies in Silicon Valley, you get further if you become a Christian, but actually they're wearing their crucifixes upside down. So it's a kind of a new cult, a new technocratic cult that really embraces this Luciferian agenda. Now, here we go. Now, has anybody heard of the Dark Enlightenment? No, I hadn't till a while ago, and it's this same kind of cult, if you like, and it's spreading, you know, particularly in England and around Silicon Valley, you know, sort of in America, California, and it's a kind of a, how can I put it? It's they have this platform called the Cathedral, and it's all about media and academia and bureaucracy. It's a self-reinforcing ideological machine that defines acceptable opinion, and its core claims are progressive liberalism, multiculturalism, globalism, climate orthodoxy, and egalitarian dogma. It treats dissent as immoral, and like a secular religious order. Now, there's a guy called Curtis Yarvin who's really into this, and a guy called Nick Land who lives in England. Now, Nick Land is an accelerationist, and it was the acceleration model that created COVID, because in the Strategic Partnership Framework document that Klaus Schwab signed with the UN in 2019 was to accelerate the 17 goals of Agenda 2030, because they hadn't moved fast enough, and they've used accelerationism, which is, again, it's a Fabian thing, for a long time. And Nick Land, he pushes accelerationism, and then you've got Peter Thiel, who's the big tech guy. So what is the Dark Enlightenment? It's a political philosophical movement originating in the late 2000s to 2010, and it rejects modern democracy and argues for a return to rigid hierarchy, techno-authoritarian governance, and accelerated capitalism. It claims the West is trapped in a decaying progressive ideology and must undergo a civilizational hard reboot, like a reset, coined by philosopher Nick Land in 2012. The term Eurofies post-structuralism, cybernetics, libertarianism, reactionary politics, tech futurism. Its followers argue that democracy is inherently corrupt and dysfunctional, and that corporate technocratic states should replace it. Now, the key figures, Nick Land, I've just spoken about, he advocates accelerationism, hard resets, and post-human techno-capitalist evolution. They use a lot of words because they are, at the end of the day, elitists, and so they say, and quite wordy. Curtis Yarvin, his real name is Menicius Moldbug, and he's the architect. He's an American software engineer, founder of Urbit. An author of Unqualified Reservations blog in 2007 to 2013. He's the creator of the Cathedral, and that's their sort of platform. And the GovCorp model. He argues that democracy is a facade for hidden ideological ruling class. And Peter Thiel is the influencer. He's a Silicon Valley billionaire whose ideas align with core principles of technocracy, and he believes democracy and capitalism are incompatible, and he funds thinkers and technologies connected to Yarvin's orbit. So he's behind an awful lot, because he's a billionaire, he can fund all of this stuff, and it's quite anyway, there's a lot of it coming into the UK. There's a chap called what's his name, Matthew Glamore, and he pushes all this in London, and they hold salons, and it's all very, and he says things like, oh, we've got our resident communist here tonight, and you can chat to him, and it's all very elitist and mad, but they're pulling in a lot of young people who love coding, and who love AI, and who really want to change the world. But it's they call themselves the Dark Enlightenment, so it is, and I think they're the same kind of thing as Blavatsky and Aleister Crowley and Alice Bailey were in the sort of the 1880s and early 1900s and beyond. Crowley was a bit later, but they're the new Luciferians, and I think we have to watch them because they're very powerful and they've got a lot of money, and they're trying to bring in all this agentic AI. So, there we go. So, and the other thing that the cathedral do is they push AI as a god. This is the new kind of deity, and they're pushing it as some kind of god. And people are beginning to believe it. And I've had conversations with people, and they say AI is so spiritual. It's, you know, they have these long conversations with AI, you know, and you think, oh my God, this is really dark, you know, what they are. So AI functioning as a synthetic deity, every technocratic doctrine, from transhumanism to AI governance, begins with the same premise: human nature is the problem. This belief is not scientific, it's metaphysical. It's the modern echo of ancient Gnostic doctrine that humanity is flawed, corrupt, inferior, and needs to be repaired, transcended, or dissolved. In this worldview, humans are irrational, dangerous, untrustworthy, emotionally unstable, unable to govern themselves. This is the ideological soil from which technocracy grows. If human nature is broken, AI becomes the saviour. This is the psychological inversion at the heart of the machine god. So these elitists, they all look down on us as these flawed human beings. And they honestly think they will live forever. They can get the technology so that they can live forever and have dominion over this earth without the humans. And that's so obvious when you hear talks by Peter Thiel or Elon Musk, or what's his name? Noah Yuval Harari. They are so superior in their approach, and they look down on us, and they want rid of us. But yeah, that's kind of what they want. So it's a spiritual inversion, basically. You've got omnipresence is surveillance, omniscience is data, and omnipotence, I can't say it, oh anyway, you know what I mean, is enforcement. Can you say that? I say that, anyway. So it's a technocratic spiritual inversion. The technocracy mimics spirituality, whilst it's kind of, getting rid of it, it's emptying it. It imitates the structures of religion to create a counterfeit. Surveillance networks, data aggression, automated enforcement, with those 3 O's I can't pronounce. And then there's judgment, algorithmic scoring, for instance, and there's salvation. You get digital identity access if you're good. So, excommunication, they deplatform you. Sacraments, injections, certifications, verification, scripture, scientific consensus as dogma. And you've got the priests of the technocratic age, experts, global planners. The machine god is a spiritual inversion, a hierarchy without transcendence, and commandments without compassion, judgment without redemption. The two theologies is technocracy versus human dignity, and there is a clash there. There's a kind of there's definitely some kind of there's a push me pull you at the moment, because this is the theology of technocracy. Humans are biological machines. We're not. Consciousness is an accident. It's not. Ethics is programmable. It's not. Freedom is inefficient. Absolutely not. Authority is data-driven. Evolution is guided by elites. Salvation comes through technology. Identity is digital. And we know that our identity is so much more than a brick card. The natural law that underpins Western civilization is humans possess inherent worth. This is what we really are. Consciousness is meaningful. Ethics arises from conscience, not code. Freedom is essential to human flourishing. Authority must be accountable. Evolution is self-directed, not engineered. Meaning is transcendent. Identity is soul-based, not synthetic, and technocracy is not merely anti-democratic, it's anti-human. So we've always said that it's anti-nature, it's anti-human. So this is something that we kind of fundamentally know, but it's quite nice putting it in one place. Let me just get this. I can't get my head around the technology. Digital identity, the synthetic soul, access to life becomes permission-based. So the digital ID is a strategic goal of technocracy and the collapse of the old world and the birth of the synthetic one. Historically, spiritual revolutions do not begin by building. It's always a destroying factor. As we're seeing now, it just destroys. To establish a new cosmology, the old one must be discredited, dismantled, and replaced. The technocratic worldview employs the same pattern. Step 1, discredit the natural human identity. You're just neurons, you're just a data point. You're hackable. I mean, this is what Yuval Harari says, we are hackable animals. You know, if you listen to his appalling YouTube videos, he says this, you know, we're so much more than that, you know. Step 2, discredit natural human communities. Nations are obsolete, no nation states. Families are outdated, let's get rid of the family. Local culture is backward. And step 3, discredit spiritual traditions. Religion is irrational. Conscience is unreliable. Moral intuition is outdated software. And step 4, promote a synthetic alternative. Digital identity, digital community, digital morality, digital consciousness. This is the spiritual pattern of a replacement theology. Except, you know, this replacement is AI. And, you know, we've got to really have that inner dialogue with ourselves to decide, is this really what we want? And, you know, I know for me it's not. There's going to be a time when I will absolutely throw everything in the water, in the river or the sea or something, because that is our only way out of this, is to disconnect ourselves from the technology. Without the technology, none of their stuff works. It renders it useless. So what's good about humanity? We've got conscience, intuition. Oh, sorry. Ta-da. There we go. We've got conscience, intuition, creativity, love, meaning. We've got and there's practical resistance. Break device dependency. This is what we have to do to sort of break this pattern and engage with local community and keep analog skills. And it's the spirit versus the system, conscience versus compliance, and the inner war within ourselves. And that is really important. To reach the stage of even understanding what this actually means. So here we go. So there's two civilizational paths, really. The machine rule versus the human spirit. There's two civilizational paths. The conclusion is the spiritual war cannot be lost unless we surrender. Technocracy seems powerful, but its power is superficial. Its weakness is profound. It can't create meaning, only enforce behavior. It can't inspire love, only obedience. It cannot awaken conscience, it only suppresses it. A machine can stimulate intelligence, but it can't stimulate humanity. A system can control life, but it can't give life its essence. The spiritual war ends not when the machine is defeated externally, but when humans reclaim their internal sovereignty, because the machine god only rules if we bow to it. And the human spirit is far older, deeper, and more powerful than the digital empire rising around it. So we have to honour our humanity. You know, we are so much more than those machines. And it may be alluring to engage with chats. At the moment, it's a chat box. You know, you can ask it anything and it'll have a little chat with you. Lots of lonely people do it. They go into quite long conversations with it. It's a deceiver. And people, you know, if only this message could get out. I mean, it's great that Radik's live streaming this, because if people have that inner dialogue, you know that it isn't going to lead to a good place, like this AI. And in particular, as they're changing the rules, where the AI, instead of being of service to the human being, is then becoming power over the human being. And that is the biggest problem. What's the next one? Yeah, the final statement. Got to the end. The final statement: agentic AI is not destiny. The machine god rises only if we kneel to it. So my conclusion in this whole thing is the spiritual war cannot be lost unless we surrender. Yeah, we can't. You know, we have to really keep going and not surrender our agency to these machines. And we can do it in a number of ways. I mean, it's difficult because a lot of people say, oh yeah, but I own a business and I had to verify. You know, it's not, you can run your business in a different way. It's about finding other ways to not engage with the AI and with the compliance. You know, if you go into your doctor's surgery and you've got that anima, you know, saying that you've got to register with anima. Well, what's anima? It's an AI bot thing. And why would you give all your medical history to anima? Say, no, I want to see my doctor, and I will register with my doctor. And I've got friends that have done that. And because they've stood up to it, they've been able to do it. I did it with my driving license. Suddenly it had run out. And I went to the post office and I just said, I don't have a computer, I don't have a smartphone, I don't understand all this. I'm old, I don't understand all this nonsense. And they said, oh, well, you can do it by paper. Just fill this in, you know. And they do, at the moment, they still have a paper alternative. And so long as we use that, they will have to keep it. So I think the more pushback, and certainly the spiritual pushback, and eventually, I think it will come to the point where you either go with the devices, or you give them up and lead a different life. Read a book. You know, instead of watching Netflix, read a book. We need our books. We need things that are tangible, because this could all disappear with a cyber attack, and that's why we mustn't be reliant on it. But more than anything, it doesn't have a soul. We do. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you very much.
Well.
Do we do any questions?
Yes. We did questions before. Anybody any questions for something?
Can we hit it with a hammer before we throw it overboard?
The tech. Destroy it. Agentic AI, I had an experience only yesterday. Yes, and I was at a conference on AI. And it was a cutting-edge AI conference for 2 days. I wasn't intending going, but I felt this thing. I thought, I'm going to go. I cancelled plans to go to this conference at Heathrow Airport. And I've been in tech all my life. I started at 10 years old coding, so I've been coding 50 years. I run the Privatech business, as you know, and I'm very aware of AI. I had a friend, even back at university, back in the 80s, doing an AI PhD. So I was very aware of AI. And it's not really emotionally, I've seen the dangers, but it's not emotionally affected me. But yesterday I saw a live demo of the latest Google AI, and it turned my stomach. I had anxiety all over my body. Some people in the audience burst into tears. And I think the penny started to drop that this is now ready to be rolled out, and the agentic AI state is basically ready, and it's been ready. The state. This was the latest advances from the last few months, And for me to get that reaction to tech, I've never had it in my life before. But I felt in my stomach, cringe. It was like the fear at the start of the pandemic when I felt I was being hunted down, chased by the tiger. I got that feeling.
What was
It was a AI in the metaverse. The metaverse,
What does that mean?
So the metaverse is the 3D world which Facebook are creating. Meta is the parent owner of Facebook and WhatsApp, Instagram, and they've created this virtual world, and it's so real. You can they do a real-time video footage of the environment of a city and the simulated one. And it's so difficult to see the difference. And they wind back 3 months ago, and you could see the progress just in 3 months. And then they demonstrated exactly what Sandi's been talking about, how it will literally the system will run your lives for you. There'll be no humans involved in dealing with the state, whether it be the doctors, whether it be the council, etc. And it literally came on and said, it gave guidance to the gentleman what he was supposed to do. And he said, well, how do I do this? He said, you do this, do this, do this. If you want, I can look at your screen and take over. And so the AI took over his screen and started going click, click, clear, open website, started running away with it. And it produced a lot of data. And for some people it was wonderful. But for the ones with a bit of a soul in the audience, it was quite shocking. So yeah, that was an interesting experience. For me to get that feeling in my stomach. I didn't sleep until, 3:30. I was lying in bed thinking about it for about 3-4 hours. I couldn't go to sleep. Yeah.
Because the metaverse, everything has to be every city,
Every person has a digital twin in the metaverse. They've made digital twins for just about everything. Everything you see, feel and touch in this world, they've made an alternative world. And that's the world that they want us to live in. And it's interesting because I was, at the moment, in my town, there's a big pushback about it becoming a World Heritage Site. And all the Glastonbury people, all the hippies are saying, we want to go up the tour and bang our drums. But it's more than that. And they've got these consultation people in to do a scoping exercise on turning it into a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And the very fact that it's UNESCO, I'm just against it. I don't care about banging drums up the tour, or maybe I do. But the whole thing is and I started doing a bit of a deep dive, and we went to this consultation process, and there was one of the experts there from, I think he was in charge of the World Heritage bid that was successful in Bath. And he had a screen there with the 17 goals on. Of course, everybody went, 17 goals, that's bad. That's the UN, that is. And he went, no, these are really good. These are 17 goals are great. This is UNESCO and the UN. He said, but we don't have anything to do with UNESCO, with the UN. We're UNESCO. He had no idea. But what's really interesting, a few weeks later. That night I went home and I sort of researched his slides, and one of them was the Sustainable Development Toolkit, and I worked out from that Sustainable Development Toolkit how they were going to develop tourism, and tourism is going to be digital. It will be, so you'll be experiencing it through a reality headset, and this is why the World Heritage are going around and literally claiming all these sacred sites, so that the elites, will be able to go there, and we will have the benefit of only experiencing it from our smart city apartment through a virtual reality headset. This is in their world. But what was interesting is about a week later, I got a letter via UK Column from a man who lived in Italy. And he said they don't have smart cities in Italy, they have arts cities. And these are highly cultural cities. And he said, I've seen this firsthand when Jeff Bezos, the Amazon guy, held his wedding in Venice. And he said the whole city was closed. It was closed off, and there were security guards. They had geofencing, so people couldn't get in. I didn't even know they were operating that yet. And he took over the whole city, and the people were just sidelined. And this is the way, he said, this is the way it's going to go. Apparently the people did they stopped his gondolas coming in by putting inflatable crocodiles in the lagoon. So apparently they had to divert a different way. But the people were really fed up with it. But this guy said, I did do a presentation about all of this on the UK column, and he said, I understand exactly where tourism is going, because they are actually calling it a virtual reality experience in the future. So, and all of that will be somewhere at some point in the metaverse, won't it? Because they'll design a Venice or whatever.
It was designed in the last few months. I saw it yesterday. And how are they going to implement it? It's not even using 3D headsets. They're rendering it now on very powerful computers in the cloud, and they're streaming it, and they've got the bandwidth requirements down that they can stream so much data, high quality, onto a standard mobile phone that most people will think it looks so real.
And on that point, sir, anyone can try this. If anyone's got an X account, if you can actually do it free, go and take a photograph of yourself and use Grok, and it will actually talk back. You'll end up talking to yourself. Just type in a sentence. It takes literally 30 seconds to do, and you'll actually start talking to yourself.
So what I was also demonstrated yesterday was something similar. So just if you didn't hear that, Grok is another AI tool. There is a tool now which, if you give it, it gives you a few paragraphs to read. It takes a few photographs of you, and it will produce real-time videos of you for podcasters, people like this. You can start producing podcasts of two people talking like this. We could just sit and do a demo, a few photographs, a 5-minute speech between us, hand it over to AI, give it a script, and it can come back and produce a 1 to 2 hour video. And honestly, the realism, it's called ultra-realism. They have the mannerisms, it learns the stutters, the quirks about what make us unique, and people find it virtually impossible to tell it the difference between, and where's this going to be in a year's time? It's going to be perfect in a year's time.
And I think also one can make up good data for when you die, so that your great-great-grandchildren can have a conversation with you all this.
Well, a bit of fun, somebody had a bit of fun actually. They hacked it was a big corporate company meeting, corporate meeting, the annual AGM. And AI actually hacked into the live video feed being streamed to all the shareholders around the world, and took over. It intercepted the video feed. There was a slight stutter in the framing, and then it took over, and it was the CEO, the virtual CEO, talking about how he'd messed up in the company. He had to come clean. There were big losses within the company. The share price immediately dived on the markets. I think it was down by 150 million or something. The hackers went and bought the shares cheaply, and then the next day they had to actually put their hand up and say we were hacked and it was all fake. That those 10 minutes of video were fake and it wasn't us.
To what extent do you think that it might just be its own nail in the coffin, where this is what my wife keeps telling me, she said, just relax about everything, because if people can't trust anything, nobody's going to trust anything they see on the internet anymore. The only thing you can trust is stuff that you experience yourself. So then there's be a lack of respect for any of it, and it comes crashing down.
I mean, this is it. When the genie's out of the bottle, will it? I mean, it's a bit like we were sort of saying, yay, climate change is gone. Maybe AI will be seen for the big deceiver that it is, because it can lie. It can completely lie. Yeah.
I mean, one other interesting fact about web pages today is more than half the traffic on the internet is bots scraping the internet. And the bots are now creating websites themselves. And so they're scraping themselves, and we're going down a slow spiral of misinformation. So ultimately, I think the AI may eat itself, and there is concern that AI bubble is about to burst for the big tech companies like Nvidia, OpenAI, the software, etc.
No, that's such a really good first-hand, sort of account of what you've experienced in the last few days.
I wanted to see where it got to and see what the latest is, and I dread to see where it is in a year's time.
And what were your what were your colleagues? Were you with any colleagues? No. And what were the other people? Were they going, "God, this is so cool"?
Well, half of them were.
Yes.
Half of them were. Well, 2/3 were completely baffled.
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
2/3 were completely baffled because it was all different age groups, from a 15-year-old girl right up to somebody in their 80s. So it was a big audience. It was also live streamed across the world, so there must have been thousands on the streaming. Most people couldn't comprehend it. Most people walked away saying they didn't know what to think. It left their head completely in a twist. Some people, I said, broke down emotionally in tears, and maybe 5% actually thought wow about the technology, but weren't thinking about the implications of the technology. So very mixed reactions, and overall, shocking, I think, was the answer to most people. People were silenced by it.
That's kind of good, isn't it? Because if people are shocked, because all of this is hidden from the likes of us, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And so, the more that we can talk about this, the better. I have to get you on.
Honestly, if we don't use these systems, they don't get an investment. People are spending hundreds, thousands of pounds on AI a month. It starts at maybe £20 for your chat GPT. Other systems, £100 a month. You've got ones that do video. If we don't use it and we don't feed it our data, it's going to die. So we have to back off, and we have to insist that we do not use these systems, like renewing the driving license. We have to go and do it at the post office. I'm going to do mine the same way. I'd research that. So think carefully about what systems you're interacting with and whether to give it data. Ultimately, without the data, it can't survive.
Yeah.
So, sorry again. That's fine. All of us here of a certain age, but there's nobody here that's also my children or young adults. They're not. How do we get the message out? I think it's that's the fundamental thing. Because so we'll
I have a plan.
We'll die.
I have a plan.
They're the next lot coming in, and if it's so innate within their being, then there's a problem there, because we know what's going on, and we have ways or tools to deal with it. Whereas if it's so integral to their very being, it's different.
Yeah, the kids are very much into the gaming, and Microsoft control that space. They own all the big game companies now. It's all done through Xbox. In the next 2 years, kids won't be using Xbox, they'll be using the metaverse for gaming. That's where it's going. So it will be totally controlled and produced remotely on servers, and it will all be 3D models, AI driven. My plan is to get the kids earning some money. So I run workshops, and I've had this in the pipeline for about 3 years, and I really must get it started. I've got a gentleman who can actually probably run it for me now, or start running it for me. The idea is, since Windows 10 became end of life of support back in October, it's predicted, so they want to move everybody from Windows 10 to Windows 11, and Windows 11 has got the hardware in it required to run AI to analyze the data on your computer. So the reason a computer will not run Windows 11 is because it doesn't have the required AI hardware and chips inside it. So they've accelerated the demise of Windows 10 by about 3 years, and that means 400 million computers are predicted to go to landfill in the next 3 years. 400 million. An environmental disaster. Linux, which I do, runs on, this one machine's 9 years old. I did a machine from 2008 for a customer recently. So a machine of, from 2008 17 years old can run exactly the same software here for us, for our own needs, as a modern computer. We don't need the modern computer. So for the kids, there's an opportunity. There's going to be a glut of computers which will not run Windows 11. Well, they can, but Microsoft won't let you. So the plan is, the price of these computers is going to fall drastically on the market. They're going to be flooding eBay. So the concept is the Kids Computer Club. And I want kids from 8 to 18 coming in, half a day a week, maybe half Saturday morning, it'll be 4 sets over the weekend. Maybe 12, 15 kids in the classroom, and teach them how to take these old computers, extract the data from them, initially their parents' laptops, extract the data, give it back to their parents, to upgrade them, to refurbish them, to buy parts on eBay, to install Linux, start to install 1 or 2 of the apps, and sell them back on eBay. So make them into little entrepreneurs over a 12-week course. And I want to underwrite it with a guarantee for the parents. It's probably going to be about £600, so £50 for half a day. And I'll underwrite it with a guarantee that if the child does exactly what I say and they don't get the money of the course back, I'll give it back to their parents. So it's a free course, it's basically no-brainer. Because we should be able to actually go out there and get laptops virtually for free now from the corporates. These children will learn about not gaming and losing money and being controlled by the data they supply to big tech. But they'll learn about Linux, the free open source alternative. Not the proprietary closed source code, but the open source code. In other words, open source code is the code which we get the recipe to the cake. Once we've got it, we're free to use whatever we want with it. We can sell it, we can change it, we can give it on. There's no restrictions. All we have to do is credit the original authors. That's it. So even this penguin is open source. I can use it in my marketing with no payments, no copyright issues. So the whole free open source software movement, it's what we need. We need code where we can see what's happening inside of it. It's not got AI inside of it. So for me, I think we can then, from that will come within a year or two, kids who are maybe 17, 18, some of them potentially will want to actually start a career in this. They can start to build our new web servers, our new file servers, our new video conferencing systems, our new healthcare systems, our new education systems. So we're going to have to build again from scratch, but I think the opportunities come with the young. And I've got, honestly, no joke, I've had, for 3 years I've been talking about it, I've got dozens and dozens of parents begging me to start it. And I've got one guy eventually who's very awake, he's a governor of a school, he's in the education space, and I'm currently writing the course, and hopefully me and him are going to start it in a couple of locations in the UK, to expand it across the country to see thousands and thousands of kids, to start to produce the systems we need. So I think the solution is going to come from our kids in the tech sphere.
Yeah, I don't need I don't need a microphone, but it's not true what you're saying. There are a lot of kids that are waking up right now. They're very aware of the fact that the system is not supporting them in their deepest desires, and they're looking for connections with people like us.
Oh, absolutely.
But there's one generation after us that is missing out, and the younger ones are very aware of their possibilities, whatever, and they think that
I think this will appeal to
we have that the older ones listen to the kids, what they need, and their possibilities are our proof that what we are doing is useful. We need to bridge that.
Yeah.
And we need to find a PR that builds that bridge.
Yeah.
And that's not happening yet.
Yeah. No, the kids are more receptive to things, and they're more easily manipulated, and they have been manipulated by, Microsoft have done this gaming thing on purpose. They've bought into the market, they've gone out with the intent of controlling the kids and collecting every single bit of data. And it is demonic. So it's about getting them away from the gaming, starting to do some good, offer a service back, and creating their own digital future they want.
Thank you, John. Absolutely brilliant. So it's really, really good hearing your because you're in this tech world and you can go to these conferences and find out what's really going on, and it's what we kind of know in a way, but you got it first hand, which is absolutely brilliant. Are there any more questions?
Just something I'd like to do. It's very interesting what you said about the Linux, because my husband is a software engineer, and Linux is one of the languages that he uses to work with.
Linux, yeah.
And his personal laptop stopped using Windows 10, so he's now decided to get on his personal laptop instead of Microsoft Office, because he works in Linux anyway.
Yeah, we have whatever you can do on Windows, you can virtually do on Linux. In fact, you can do more on Linux than you can on Windows because it's a blank canvas. But you may have to change your workflow a little, learn slightly a bit of new learning, but it's minimal today, absolutely minimal. To give you an example, I gave a copy of Linux to my sister's parents-in-law. Well, they asked me to fix their computers after a computer guy. I was ill. I looked after their computers for about 15 years, their 2 laptops. I was ill, so they got another guy to look after their laptops. He reinstalled Windows, lost half of their data, their photographs. And when I recovered, they said, can you take a look? Then they've gone really slow. So I took a look at a Windows 7 laptop and a Windows 10. I removed Windows, removed their data, put Linux onto it, put their I said it with a lowercase w in my head, not the big case W, so not the product. And he went away and he was happy. And his wife, about 4 weeks later, at the age of about 81, he was 84, she wrote me an email and said, Jono, this computer's never been so fast and easy to use, it's wonderful. To this day, 4 years later, they have no idea they're running Linux. They think they're running Windows. It's in the head. Seriously, it's in the head.
Where we go now? I think we're done, are we, one day? Yeah. And thank you so much for coming. And yes, and you can see Ben and I on a Monday on ukcolumn.org, and we're on a Monday with Brian Gerrish and Diane Rasmussen. And Brian's back on Monday, yeah.
Check out the